What's up, irresponsible people of YouTube? Today I want to talk to you guys about taking responsibility, of taking ownership, taking upon your shoulders burdens, and and a lot of the times these shouldn't be necessarily your burdens to carry to begin with. But I've had a philosophy since in high school that I was gonna take extreme responsibility for everything that happened, right? And the older I got, the more serious this idea became. So when I was in high school, I came to the conclusion somewhere between 10th and 11th grade. I had this epiphany that first off, let me kind of give you some insight. So even though I was in 10th, 11th grade, all my friends, the majority, were older, and majority of the people came from harder lifestyles with many lessons involved in them, right? So I came from a very mature group of people. So even though I was in high school, I did not feel as if I was one of these high school students. I felt I was older, like as if I was a college kid there, because the way they carried themselves and acted and the things they said and did, it just didn't align with me as a person. So somewhere between 10th and 11th grade, I came to the realization that I came to the realization that I am a man now. And because I am a man, I should not be lying. Lying should not be a part of my character. Whether it be white lies, like some white lies are okay, right? But other than that, I should not be lying. Whatever it is, as a man, I just, if I'm not ashamed of something, like if I did something during those times, and if I was going to feel ashamed or I felt it was wrong, I just wouldn't do it. But if I did it, I would take responsibility for what I did. And I'm gonna tell you guys how I came to this conclusion of thinking. Now, when we were growing up as kids, right, I had this best friend, and we would always get into trouble. And my best friend was like a year and a half older than me, but he was an extremely tough kid. I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life, I don't think I met anyone that was as tough as this kid was. He was just a force of fucking nature, man. Even at a young age, I honestly thought this kid could take on the world, man. I thought he was gonna end up becoming like a sociopathic, homicidal, fucking just running over anything and everything, right? And that wasn't the case, because he also had deep morals and he had sympathy and all this stuff. But when things came to him, his reaction was very aggressive, and I've seen people react to shit aggressive growing up in the hood, but he just had this star in him that he was built differently. And I remember one day we get in trouble for doing something we weren't supposed to do, and I believe it was my idea. I don't even remember what it is. It was just something, we were kids, like you're talking about under 10 years old. We were kids. And he knew I was gonna get my ass beat by my parents that caught us doing this shit. And I remember he straight looked at my mom and he calls her by her name, and he says, Miss so and so, it was not your son, it was me, it was my idea, I did that. Don't get mad at him. And damn well knowing that my mom was gonna tell his mom, and he got his ass beat for something he didn't do. He shouldered my burden knowing I was already going through shit, you know? And this created this thing of where, like, that was the first time, and I must have been like 7 at that time. This is the first time I ever witnessed somebody, like, you know, another kid that just, they're gonna take responsibility on themselves for something they didn't do. Most kids that age, it's the opposite. They're quick to point fingers and say, no, it wasn't me, it was him, and that wasn't the case. This guy had a different integrity and different morals, right? And throughout the years, there were so many instances. This became like a routine thing where, like, sometimes I would take responsibility for something he did, and sometimes he would for me, and it would just always be like, for the outside, like our parents and stuff, they really did not know who fucking did what. All that mattered is that we understood what was happening and why we were doing what we were doing. So when I got into high school, man, I had that epiphany of, like, I'm a man. I don't need to lie. If I did something, I'm gonna stand up and say I did it, right? And I had a dean, man, and this dean recognized this feature within me, because I remember I would always get into trouble, right? And I was always being sent to the dean. I remember I got sent to the dean for calling a teacher a fucking prick. I'll tell you guys that story in another time, but or calling a teacher a fucking faggot or whatever, and that was just, those were words we used back then, right? And I would go see my dean, and the dean will be like, the teacher said you did this. I'd be like, the teacher is absolutely right. I did do exactly what he said, and I did say exactly what he says I said. The only difference is that he left out the part where he said certain things that kind of instigated this problem to begin with. And my dean would be shocked, because I would consistently walk in and say, yeah, this is the situation, blah blah blah, and he'd sit back sometimes and he'll be like, man, I can't even really get mad at you, dude. Like, I can't even really get mad at you because I understand why you're doing it, you know, but it's not right. And I'm like, look, I know it's not right, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm telling you the truth. So just punish me however you think it's right to punish me. And this guy would be like dumbfounded, like, dude, I don't even know how to punish you, because you're the only person. You know how many kids walk in through that door, and do you know how many of them just lie to me about anything and everything? You know how hard it is to get the truth out of these kids, bro? You're the only person that walks in here and takes full responsibility for something, man. Like, I don't even know how to punish that. And that being said, man, like, while I was in Hollywood High School, so each suspension is like a line on the paper. Literally, it's a line. And I had a 3-page suspension sheet. I would keep on getting suspended, keep on getting in problems, but they would not kick me out of school because he didn't feel I was meeting this criteria of like, I'm just a problem child, and it's like, no, I'm doing me and I'm being polite and nice, but soon as someone is not polite and nice, I let them fucking know. You know, if the teacher said something disrespectful, I'll disrespect them back, you know? And I wouldn't do it in a just straight asshole way. I'd be like, you know, I didn't appreciate you saying this. So, you know what, I'm gonna say this to you. And I'll just put them on blast in front of the class like that. And they would be dumbfounded because I would call out what they did that caused the initial situation, right? So this created this environment in my high school where like these teachers either fully loved me or they absolutely fucking hated me. And the ones that hated me were usually the insecure teachers, the ones that didn't care, that were very sloppy with how they handled things. They were kind of sick of these kids. So they would allow a lot of immature, rude, just they were not carrying themselves like a teacher should, like someone that's actually that cares about you and wants to educate you. They weren't carrying themselves like that. So I adopted that, and in high school, starting from that point on, I made that decision for myself that I was not going to lie about shit. And I eventually became so brutally honest that I kind of had to change that, because majority of people just don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear 100% truth, you know? Because everybody has a fault in something, right? So I kind of became very asshole-like, even though I wasn't trying to be. I was just speaking the truth. And truth is a hell of a fucking weapon, you know? It really freaks a lot of people out. Now, as I got older and became mature and became a man, I kind of learned to, like, responsibility is an interesting fucking thing, man. And you can take responsibility for a lot of fucking things. And by taking responsibility, I mean, like, if a situation arises, you can choose to avoid it. You can choose to cast blame on other people, right? And sometimes rightfully so. You're not always the one that's creating problems. Sometimes it's other people. But I kind of learned that even when I felt things were not my fault, that I needed to take responsibility. Like, I did something wrong in that situation. Therefore, I'm gonna take responsibility for it, because I could have done something different from the beginning. And I created this understanding of perceptions of things, right? So even though things weren't my fault, I was willing to take them on my shoulders. And that kind of toughened me up in a different way, right? And it also created problems in certain ways, because let's say you're dating someone, and that person doesn't necessarily follow that same psychology of thought, right? You're suddenly taking on all this responsibility, and you're shouldering certain burdens, and they're like, why are you doing this? You know, you shouldn't be doing this. And or they're not willing to when they should be doing it. Like, no, I'm shouldering your fucking problems that you're refusing to even acknowledge that you've created, that you're the reason for the problem. But because I'm next to you, I'm gonna shoulder it anyway. But instead of you, like, taking me as an example and changing your character, you're becoming like, kind of, you want to take advantage, right, of this, of me or the situation or whatnot. But I'm not gonna let you take advantage of me because I'm not doing this out of the kindness of my heart. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing this because I'm such a nice guy. I'm not doing this because I'm weak. On the contrary, I'm doing these things and I'm carrying myself in a certain way because I'm the opposite. Because at any given time, I can choose to react and act and do things completely different. And therefore, because of that, there's been lots of situations where, you let people know, hey, I think you're kind of taking advantage of me, kind of being nice, and I'm just letting you know I'm not nice because I'm a nice person. I'm nice because I choose to be nice. And this is just my warning to you that, like, I may choose to not be nice next time. And people would always test that every fucking single time. And they would always regret it every single fucking time. But that was my way of thinking and being, man. Like, I was just trying to improve myself in different ways, and I thought that's one way I could improve myself. So now that I'm having these other problems, like the panic attacks and all this shit, I'm trying to shoulder it and take responsibility for things I don't even fully understand and grasp. But I'm trying to take full responsibility. Like, it's my fault I'm having these panic attacks, and it's my fault I haven't done better so that I don't keep having them, right? So a perfect example is, like, as soon as I realized, like, when I overexert myself and in terms of exercise and stuff, that I tend to have an anxiety attack or a panic attack within that day or the following day, dude, I immediately went, of which I was sitting on in my head, going and signing up for the gym for years. I exercised at home. I didn't need to go to the gym. But as soon as I felt this, that when I overexert myself, that I get more panic attacks, the first thing I did, man, the next day, I went and I signed up to the gym at 24-hour fitness. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. I take my ass to the gym and I overexert myself, and it's like I'm taking it head on. I'm trying to take as much responsibility for what's happening, even though it's out of my control, as possible. And I don't know what else to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course I have character flaws just like anybody else. We all have personality flaws. But long as they're not serious problems, like serious flaws, you can overcome them, right? But when you're talking about mental disorders and things that are out of your fucking control, it's very I don't want to say debilitating, but it really takes away from being enthusiastic about taking responsibility and shouldering shit, because you're doing it and you're not seeing the outcomes that would normally take place. Usually, if you take responsibility and you act accordingly, you can change situations, right? Whether it be at your workplace, whether it be in your private life, whether it be, between you and another person, whether it be a coworker, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, your friends, right? Like, usually taking responsibility and shouldering it, like, with maturity and good intent in mind to solve the problem, usually you solve the problem because there's a desire and a will to do so. and you let it be known. You learn to use your mouth, right? You have this thing called the tongue, and you learn to use your words to communicate, because if I don't tell you, you're not gonna know, and if you don't tell me, I'm not gonna know. And it's so much easier for me to just tell you and explain it rather than let you figure it out. That way you know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it solves so many issues and makes things so much easier. But like I said, when it comes to like my mental state, it's out of my control, and I am trying to take control of it the best I fucking can, and with whatever I know to be right, and I'm just doing it in the way I know how. It just, I'm not afraid of anything, so it's like, just face it, man, whatever it is, and just deal with it. And like, I came from the gym, I'm fucking exhausted. I did a full body like workout, you know, and that's right after work. So I don't know, man. It's still not like, just because it's the right thing, that doesn't mean the right thing is always working. Which it isn't really fair, man. It's like hard work. You know what I'm saying? Like, just strap up your boots and go and just do what needs to be done, you know? Like, I always had a saying, you know, like, a man does what he has to, and a boy does what he wants to. So being a man, you have to do the things you don't like doing. Whatever needs to be done, you have to do it, right? And it's like the hard work thing, man. There's people that work their asses off, and they get they don't get a proportional financial result from their hard labor, where other people are not exerting themselves as much, and they're getting a much better, much bigger financial gain. And this is like the inequalities of life, you know. And yeah, this is my concept of shouldering burdens and taking responsibilities for things, even though sometimes you shouldn't, and yet you do it anyway. And sometimes it's not necessary, but you still do it anyway. And at least you learn something from it. At least you gain something from it, you know. And this ensures you don't miss your life lessons that come at you, you know. And you're obviously gonna miss some, but for the most part, it matures you, man. It matures you into an adult, a properly functioning adult for the most part. So I'm gonna end it at that. You guys have a nice day. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. Peace.